Hello to another episode of Slice and Dice. I'm Yulia, Operations Director, and I'm joined by.
Dan, the senior SEO specialist at ClickSlice.
Today's episode is all about why strategic SEO always wins. And I think the first question I wanted to ask you is why the scattergun approach never works.
Yeah, I mean, SEO's, you hear it everywhere, but there's an 80-20 approach to most things. SEO, that is more true than I think any other field I've been involved in. If you find that an agency that you're working with or anybody that you're working with that's doing SEO is doing lots of activities all over the place, they're producing loads of blogs and loads of different content. They're doing lots of technical fixes that don't really make sense. They're going after social, they're going after this. Ultimately, if you're trying to do 90 things, and in the field of SEO there are so many things that you can just waste your time doing. There is literally hundreds and hundreds that just in maybe website optimization you could spend a year on. Ultimately, these things will not bring you results. There is a very small subset of actions that have 80% of the results that you're looking for. So if you're starting an SEO campaign, you need to make sure that your agency is very clear on what it is that they're doing and that those things actually make sense. So I guess I'd kind of throw that back to you, like, what are those activities that we would know to do that other agencies don't necessarily do?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that we start with priority areas. So we try to understand from our brand what are the main collection pages or product pages the clients want to focus on, just because we obviously look at collections because they give users more choice, whereas we've seen clients previously before joining our agency work on, I don't know, say all products or different products, and that's just all over the place. And it also allows us to prioritize. So you first start with minimum three collections, you work on those, and as time goes by, they stabilize their
Yeah.
rankings, and then you can pivot to different collections. And guess what? The great part about SEO is that SEO compounds. So
Yes.
even
Yeah.
if you started with a specific collection page, for example, in 6 or 9 months, when that stabilizes and you switch on to your next one, that has piggybacked on
Yes.
your
Yeah.
strategy
Absolutely.
so far. So it's already at a better place and you can start working on that. But yeah, we did have clients in the past that wanted to work on multiple areas and then you end up spreading your budget too thin.
Way too
So
thin. Yeah.
I'm going to throw it back to you and kind of like what happens when you try and do that?
Yeah, I mean, the first issue that any business owner needs to focus on is, like, can you actually define clearly where the ROI is coming from certain activities? And when you start doing too many things at once, like, attribution becomes basically impossible. There's just too many variables that are moving at the same time. So if the results are weak, it's pretty impossible to figure out, like, why it's weak. And so when you're then looking at, do we continue allocating budget to this? Do we pivot into, say, paid? You don't know that the reason the SEO didn't work is because you just put too much time into blogs that were irrelevant, or you built up product pages that are not actually going to rank because Google doesn't prefer to rank product pages over collections. So if you put all of your effort into optimizing a product page but neglected the collection page, you've wasted a huge amount of budget there.
Yeah, spot on as always. But like, how could brands know what to prioritize?
I would say, first of all, you should, assuming you're not brand new to the game, which I think if you're watching a podcast like this, you're probably not. Yeah, you need to
Hopefully.
look at what you're already ranking for. Ultimately, if you're already ranking for something, it's easier to push that into the top spots than it is to go from ground zero and try and build your way up. With that being said, there are certain keywords or certain collections that you're going to try and rank that are going to be way too competitive for what you are currently. And they may take 2 or 3 years of consistent work to get you into that top 1 to 3 spot where you'll see a positive ROI. So what you then need to do is figure out, like, what is that perfect overlap between things that have enough commercial volume but are not too competitive that you can rank for in the short term, which can then start bringing you in that ROI that you can then feed into going after the bigger key terms. And so one thing that we see a lot is we'll pick up from a previous agency which haven't returned a profitable ROI, and we'll see that, yeah, they've gone after the right keywords, they've just done it at the wrong time, and they've gone after, the top spots when you've got huge brands that have been doing SEO successfully and correctly for years and years, and then you think you're going to rank for that after doing 3 to 4 months of backlinking. It's not going to happen. So you just have to figure out, like, what is the priority order that you need to be ranking for. Start with things you've already got rankings for, and then look for those lower volume, lower competition keywords that you can rank for fairly quickly.
So you're touching on priority of keywords and commercial terms, but also there's many optimization tactics that you can take on. So does order matter if you, I don't know, start with an audit or backlinks? Is order important, or
Yeah,
can you just...
absolutely. First thing to do is just make sure you've got no holes in the bucket. Like the audit needs to be done first. If you have lots of 404s across the site, if the page speed is really low, doesn't matter how good your backlinks are, because Google is still going to think you're a low quality website. And it's the same with like, do you have, and this is a big area that comes up a lot now, do you have a lot of content on the site that's low quality? Is it adding anything in a world where anybody can produce a pretty good article very quickly from ChatGPT in seconds? If your content is not better than that, and it isn't better than the competitors that are already ranking in those positions, you're wasting your time. So you need to go back to those points first, finish that. Then once you've got that all sorted, then you start investing in things like backlinking, which is really what pushes you into those more competitive spots. So speaking of ROI, what kind of data and analytics are you looking for to inform like a strategic SEO campaign?
I think there's different steps. You obviously start with keywords rankings, and you would have to choose the right terms to focus on. I think you've mentioned previously, if it's high commercial terms, there's a lot of competitors out there. But if you start with low commercial, low value, that's not necessarily the sweet spot either. So once you do have the right keywords, it's keyword rankings, and then you obviously, if you rank higher, positions 1 to 3 ideally, your traffic increases. And then once your traffic increases, you want to look if that traffic is actually converting. So if you're not converting between 2% or 5%, then we have an issue, and then you have to deep dive into CRO.
Yeah.
So it all makes sense, and it's linear.
It is.
And we're not about vanity metrics. It doesn't matter for us if your traffic is high, if your website is not converting. But there's obviously a specific road you have to take to get there.
Yeah.
So given it's linear, I want to ask you actually, when do you decide it's time to pivot, and how do you allocate your resources?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a more fundamental like business problem. It isn't just unique to SEO. With anything in business, you've got to make sure that your survivability is locked in first. If you're not able to be profitable, you don't need to be focusing on super high-end landing pages or anything like that. Like fundamentally, you have a problem with like your core business model at the moment. So we always make sure that not only are you ranking for the right kind of keywords, which will get you an ROI quickly, but that ROI is significant enough that it can sustain not just a continual SEO campaign, but the actual life of the business. And so it's one of those situations where, while we all know that you want to go for XYZ super competitive key terms, we know in the short term that's not going to be enough for you to keep going. So we target what we know is going to get you that profitable ROI, and then we start moving up the chain. Because there is no set rule to this, there is no like at month 3 you need to do X. Like ultimately, like SEO is not an exact science all of the time. Some of the time it is, but not all of the time. So it does depend, which is that super annoying term that SEOs always come out with. But fundamentally, like it's different for each business. But the way that we do it, we should be able to see positive results within that 3-month window, and from that you then build down the chain, and then eventually you end up on high-end conversion optimization and reinvesting in your website and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think you touched on one of our USPs right there. We do bespoke SEO campaigns, just because obviously there are specific steps that you need to take, and we know from experience are effective, but at the end of the day, we're looking at performance by each campaign.
Yes.
So if something is not working there, we're always going to switch it up. It's not like we use the same template across all businesses, because at the end of the day, all businesses have their own quirks, I think is the word, or something like that. Yeah.
Term to use.
So but I just wanted to point out, even if our campaigns are bespoke, we don't have the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to also ask you, how do you make sure you don't jump on any trend? Because obviously SEO is a long-term game.
Yeah.
We're talking about months and years. So there's many changes constantly happening, but how do you know which one is actually useful, and how do you know something is just a trend and it's going to pass by?
Yeah, I mean, SEO, like you say, it's the ultimate shiny object syndrome game. Everyone's trying to find the shortcut. Google are very, very clear that shortcuts are going to get you penalized. And it's one of those areas where new tactics are, while they may work in the short term, and I've seen it loads of times, you'll get like a nice boost 2 to 3 months in, Google then adapts the algorithm because too many people are manipulating it in that way. And whatever you just did, not only are you going to lose what you just did, but you can also get penalized and brought lower than you were previously before. So while it'd be, I guess, foolish of us to reveal the exact tactics that work, because if we do, you can just go implement it yourself. You need to stay away from shiny new tactics, because the risk of penalties, especially in the hands of someone that doesn't do SEO all day, every day, it's super high. You're going to end up getting penalized. And when you do, it's so much harder to recover that. It's not the same thing as we got penalized in month 1, therefore we should be able to fix that penalty in month 2. It's like, no, some penalties last a year.
Yeah, exactly.
And you will not recover that traffic once the penalty's gone, even if you do everything correct. So it's like, go with the agencies that you know you can trust. How do you know that you trust them? They rank in number 1, 2, 3 for very competitive terms. If they can do that for themselves and they've done it for a long time, they're not just, they've not just been up there for a month. I believe we've been up 4 years, the top spots for some of the most competitive terms in the UK. If you know a company can repeatedly do that for such a long period of time, they're probably the right company to go with to fix these kind of issues for you.
So you mentioned quick wins as shortcuts. I wouldn't say, yeah, I agree with you. That's not the route you want to take. While SEO is long term, there are still strategies that can get you higher or can move the needle a bit. So how do you balance that between quick wins and long term strategy?
Yeah. So there's quick wins that will happen because you've moved into a space with low competition. There's a difference between that and a shortcut.
Yeah.
A shortcut is you're in a high competition space. You've done some very spammy technique that's gotten you 1,000 backlinks in a week, and all of a sudden you jump quite high for the next 2 weeks. That kind of stuff is a shortcut. Picking strategies that work in lower competition spaces is a way to get quick results without taking those shortcuts. If competitors then pile into that space, it's going to get harder again for you. But what we look for initially is where is that perfect intersection between low competition but high commercial relevance. If you're not a massively well-established brand, that's where we start. That's where your quick results are going to come from. What we're not going to do is try and do quick shortcut, somewhat like hacking techniques, because it may have worked 10 years ago and you may have had a good run, but you eventually lose that. And Google now, it seems to be like every couple of months bringing out a new form of penalty that specifically penalizes very popular tactics. And I think it's getting harder and harder to try and get away with those black hat techniques. Some of them still do work, but it's on a timer. It's not going to last forever. Google will patch them.
It shouldn't. I like this SEO approach a lot more than the one in the past. I think this is user-centered.
Exactly, yeah.
It's
Google finally doing its job correctly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they have a hell of a task on their hand, because everyone, myself included, is trying to trick them all the time. That's it's somewhat part of our job. But there is just doing tactics that get good results quickly without violating the rules that Google very clearly say, please don't do this, because if we catch you, we're going to penalize you. And there's people that go out and do it and they're like, hey, we got really good results for 2 weeks and now we've lost our site. And it's like, you've got to be in it for the long term.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess in that vein, what kind of questions do you need to be asking e-commerce SEO agencies to prevent that kind of scattergun or shortcut taking approach that some agencies take?
I think you want to understand first what commercial terms they want to focus on and understand why they chose those. And as I've said, we do minimum 3 collection pages. We focus on those and then move on as that performance stabilizes there. And then another point is, while I know we've mentioned, we do bespoke SEO campaigns, there you still need a roadmap, because that agency would need to look at your website, understand where to focus, and then come up with a plan. Okay, we plan to first fix technicalities, run an SEO audit. Then we're going to start looking at your content, see if you've got too much on your website. Is that even valuable?
Yeah.
So you have to understand if they've actually went in and looked at everything that's happening there and have made the strategy based on your goals and your website. And yeah, you need a roadmap. Even if it changes in time with campaign performance, you need to understand what they plan to tackle, in which order, and why they chose that specific order. Just as you said, if your technicalities or if your foundation is, excuse my French, shit, then there's no point in building so many backlinks or writing new content when your house foundation
Yeah,
isn't
it's not in
built,
place. Yeah.
stop putting bricks there. It's
Yeah.
gonna fall apart every time you put another brick, basically.
Yeah, completely true.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one in 2 weeks. See ya.
See you.